Everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. I'm Zamia Sabor, an associate at Link Strategic Partners. I'm also a student at Howard University, majoring in international business and an entrepreneur striving to empower youth in our community. I started as an intern at Link when I was a senior in high school, and I decided to come back when I started my college career because of the impact of this work, spanning hyper-local, national, and global communities. So we started our Changemaker series as a way to bring together diverse community leaders to discuss the world's most relevant topics. We've had sessions on healthcare, equity and belonging, youth leadership, the importance of second chances, women in leadership, and so much more, as a way to show the impact on communities at a hyperlocal, national, and global stage. I am delighted to welcome Michael Aiken, the president of Link Strategic Partners, who will be my co-host today in guiding today's discussion. Michael?
Thank you, Zamia. My notes say that I'm supposed to say, welcome to the Changemaker series. I'm Michael Aiken, president of Link Strategic Partners. But I'm going to update that to I am Zamia Sabor's colleague and will do anything she tells me to do. That was a phenomenal introduction, Zamia. Thank you for that. I'm really looking forward to co-hosting with you today. So we're going to be having a discussion about multi-generational workplaces today. And I'm really excited about this. We don't just want to talk today about the importance of having multi-generational or intergenerational workplaces. We want to talk about the absolute business necessity of doing so. We are a better and stronger business because of the variety of perspectives and lived experience that our team brings. And that includes our team members that have far more lived experience than others. And we're going to unpack that together today. We're also joined by Virginia and Nizam from the legendary Ben's Chili Bowl family that have lived this model for decades. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Zamia and we'll dig in.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, so I cannot be more excited to introduce the incredible collection of leaders that we have in front of us today. Not only do they represent the very best at Link, but also the best within communities around the district. Thank you, Charlie Brotman, Senior Advisor at Link Strategic Partners, and Carol Lambert, Operations at Link Strategic Partners, for joining us today. Like Michael said, we also have members from the Ben's Chili Bowl family, a family of restaurants of a successful, long-lasting organization in DC, who joined us today to speak about the experiences of cultivating multi-general workplaces and its benefits. I'd like to welcome Virginia Ali, the owner of Ben's Chili Bowl, and Nizam Ali, the the co-owner of Ben's Chili Bowl. Thank you all for joining us today.
Of course. Happy to be.
Awesome. Thank you. So I just introduced you, and I'd like each of you to introduce the roles that you play in your organizations. I'm going to go around the screen, and I'd like for each of you to unpack the professional roles that each of you play and what has inspired you to be a leader in the communities that you serve. So I'd love you all to tell us a little bit about the current work that you lead. Charlie Brotman, I'm going to toss it to you to talk a little bit about the current work that you do for us today at Link Strategic Partners as a senior advisor.
I tell you the truth, Simone, what happened when you introduced us as a collection of professionals, I felt like a bug. But all in all, I am Charlie Brotman, and I'm the senior advisor for Link Strategic Partners. Now, basically, what in the world does a senior advisor do? He doesn't advise other seniors exactly, but there are good having young people and good having established people. The whole idea is seniors have been there. Numbers are numbers, but when they say, Charlie, how long have you been doing this? I'd say about 50 years or more. And the benefits of all of that is that I have been there and I'm able to share some of the things that I've experienced with the younger element here.
Yep.
And by the same token, I'm learning every day from the young guys and ladies.
Thank you, Charlie. That's super helpful. I'm going to toss it over to Carol next, who serves as operations as Link Strategic Partners. Can you tell us a little bit about the current work that you lead?
Thank you, Samia. Well, I have two goals, really. Mission optimization. I want to make Link irresistible. And to do that, it means helping the organization run smoothly. I do focus a great deal on scheduling, on putting the pieces of projects and activities together. The goal is to make the day go smoothly, that client-facing experiences are extraordinary and seamless, and that those of us who work at Link feel that great sense of self-satisfaction at the end of the day, knowing that our work matters and matters to the people we're in touch with. It's an amazing place and an amazing team, and I'm very privileged and honored to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Carol. You do keep all the wheels turning every day at Lincoln. It's such a pleasure to have you there. Next, I'm going to toss it over to Nizam Ali, the co-owner of Ben's Chili Bowl. Can you tell us the current work that you lead today, please?
Sure, but I'm going to pass it to Mama because Mama's the queen and she's going to tell you about her work because I just work for her.
Thank you. Virginia, we'll toss it to you. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing today?
Oh, yes, I'm Virginia Alley. I opened Ben's Chili Bowl in 1958 with my husband. We wanted to be a part of a community. We know we wanted to be a gathering place, and we were able to establish the business by finding the right location and bringing in the new young people to help us carry out that dream that we had. As running a restaurant, you do a little bit of everything. You know, you do payroll, you make all the supplies, you hire the staff, you do all of that. And I don't have to do that as much as I used to because we have Nizam here to do that. But it's been a pleasure to do that and to work with young people. And I think it's so wonderful that we have this multi-generational day to bring us all together and to realize the importance of being there for each other, the young and the old.
Thank you so much, Miss Virginia. You're so inspiring and you do lead great work around the city. So thank you for that. Nizam, your mom spoke a little bit about what you do, but can you unpack that a little bit more for us? What do you do within the organization today?
Sure. So it could be anything from jumping on the floor to helping out, all the way through all the duties of running a restaurant. Kind of anything with a login is kind of my job is like the chief admin officer. So anything you name it from handling, I don't know, review sites to websites to banking to our bookkeepers, through ordering and any kind of IT issues, but also the growth. So all the growth that we're doing now, all the stores, the corporate entities, all that compliance, that would pretty much fall on my shoulders.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to toss back to you, Michael, to take us a little bit through each person's journey and how they got here today.
I appreciate that, Zamia. So I believe, as many of you know, that stories are really important, and the stories of how we got places are something we don't unpack enough. So I'd like to dig in a little bit more on your journeys to where you are now professionally, and then we'll talk about a multi-generational workforce in just a little bit. So Charlie, I'm going to start with you. I actually first met you when I was a college student, and one of my mentors, Bernard Demchuk, introduced me to you, and I remember thinking, this is the best dressed guy I've ever met. And so I knew I was going to go to dinner with you the second time. And so I got out my best suit. And I think it was like a suit I'd gotten from the Salvation Army before going to college. And I put on my best suit and my best tie. And I came to have dinner with Charlie. And Charlie Zamia, he showed up in a velvet smoking jacket and an ascot. And it was in that moment that I realized we're never going to be able to compete. It's Charlie's world. It's Charlie's world. We just live in it. But Charlie, I mentioned that because even when I was a nobody college student, you took an interest in me very early on. So you really modeled that investment in other generations from literally the first day I met you. Looking back at
you're a nice guy.
Thank you, Charlie. Looking back at your career, you were an announcer. You ran your own consulting and communications business. You kind of created much of the industry around sports marketing and hospitality marketing. You announced the City Open tennis tournament for 42 years. You announced the Senators before they left and came back as the Nationals, and you announced the inaugural season of the Nats. Oh, and by the way, you were also the president's announcer since President Truman, which you did as a college student, through Eisenhower as the official announcer, all the way through President Obama's second inaugural. There was one president in there that didn't invite you back, and then you came back for President Biden and Vice President Harris's inauguration this last time. When you reflect back on that professional journey, what sticks out to you in all of that?
I didn't realize how important these various stages were. Here I am, the son of my mom and dad had a small corner store, and here I am introducing the President of the United States. I'm an ordinary guy. And all of a sudden, I find that in addition to introducing the presidents on their various journeys, the inaugural parades, I mean, it's really quite a kick. And it's something that I live with and I really enjoy having this opportunity that I never thought I would have.
Yep. Charlie, I appreciate that so much. There's always such a graciousness and a humility about the work you've done, which has truly been at the highest levels. And I think reflecting on a workplace here at Link, when we've got kind of every generation represented and we do so much community-based social impact work across lots of different industries, you have likely done or work in or with almost every industry we could be a part of. And so it's so great for those moments when you reach back and say, actually, I was working with a restaurant in 1970 and they were really trying to get customers. And so I created this thing called a waiter's race. And here's what worked. There's so much of that stuff that is deeply transferable, and we wouldn't have it without you being at the table every day.
Yeah, you're right. You Michael, you have hit on and why are seniors really important? And that's one of the reasons is that nothing's new under the sun. And that includes the seniors. There's a lot of seniors out there. And I happen to be one of them. And I'm delighted to be in the lineup.
I love it, Charlie. Virginia, I'm going to come to you next. So now Ben's Chili Bowl is a global brand. People from around the world come and make a pilgrimage to U Street, or they order the half smokes online. You're a known entity. You're a known brand. But way back in 1958, when you first opened, that wasn't the case. You had a couple newlyweds trying to open a hot dog joint. Can you talk to me a little bit about the journey of where you got to now and what you've reflected on from that journey?
Yeah, Michael, we did open in 1958. We simply wanted to open a little restaurant to make a living and to raise a family. And we know we wanted to be a part of a community. So I like people. It's my favorite thing in the whole wide world, meeting people and interacting with them. I learned that in Industrial Bank. So when we were here, it was very easy for me to do that, to meet the community. I was 24 years old, and to be able to be here to hire the local folks in the community and help them to grow. We had many students back in those days because back there financial aid wasn't as it is today. So we had many students in college that were going to school but working their way through school. We were able to accommodate them, and we also required from them their schedule at the beginning of each semester so that we would not put them on a schedule that would interfere with their morning classes. And we were able to get that going for quite some time. We've had good fortune of having some very wonderful staff members that now coming back generation after generation and after generation to bring their own kids to school. But we worked hard. We opened at 11 o'clock in the morning and closed at 3 a.m. We had a goal that we wanted to accomplish a few things. And that meant that Ben would take care of the night shift, I would take care of the daytime. And I remember saying to him when we first opened, should I leave my job? He said, of course, you will leave your job. We will make this work if we have to sell the car, give up the apartment, bring in a bathroom, a shower, and a bed. Well, we didn't have to do that, but we were willing to make that kind of sacrifice. So over the years, we became a little bit more popular, and became the gathering place that we wanted it to be. And you know what stands out is when we did these big celebrations that Nizam used to do, and see people come and stand in line all day to come into events when we had those big celebrations. Um, just growing with the staff and teaching the staff hospitality and the importance of it and letting them realize their goal was to get their education. So we wanted to accommodate with them with that. It's just been a wonderful experience, Michael. And you learn all the way, all along the way that all you have to do really is to treat people the way you'd like to be treated. Ben was a very great and motivational speaker, and he was able to sit with our team members and motivate them to go on to their careers. And we have so many careers across this country, from doctors and lawyers and postal workers and everybody that got their start here at Ben's Chili Bowl.
So, Virginia, I have one follow-up question. So we were initially going to have this discussion yesterday, and when I was working with Nizam about availability, he said, "Oh, Mom's got an event, and we got to go here, and she's got this speaking appearance, and then the family's doing this." You are one of the busiest people I know. What brings you back every day? You could have retired long ago. Why do you keep doing this?
You know what happened? Busy seniors stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have time to be sick, you don't get sick. Isn't that right, Charlie? When you don't have time to be sick, you don't get sick.
You just
And
get out
besides,
there, right?
I love people, so I like being here every day. I enjoy being here, meeting people now, as you said, all over the world
Yep.
and from all walks of life. It's been
Yep.
wonderful.
Charlie, I'm gonna circle back and ask you that same question. 95 years old, you could do anything you want right now. You've earned a retirement. Why do you come back and grace us with your presence every day?
I love it. It's like a hobby. I mean, I get up in the morning and look forward to going to work. It's a marvelous feeling. There are many people out there who are retired and they just don't know what they're retired from or what to do now that they are retired, or they're just tired. One way or another, I want to overcome that area. And I'm looking for things to do, and enjoying creating keeps the mind buzzing. And when Michael and I got together thinking it might be wonderful for both parties, it turned out exactly that. And I'd like to do it for another 100 years.
I love it. Let's sign the contract, Charlie. We're all in, my friend. I love that. Well, that is fantastic, Charlie, and I feel the same way. We're going to get into this multi-generational workforce in just a second, but there's this great picture I have, and we should pull it up for this in a bit. But there's a great picture of you and Zamia sitting at the booth. Remember our old office, way pre-pandemic? You guys, Zamia was our high school intern, and Charlie was our senior advisor, and their hours overlapped, and so they shared a booth where they sat across from each other. And I've got this wonderful picture of our youngest employee and our most seasoned employee sitting there working together, both with a phenomenal pair of socks on, I remember. So there's something that it brings to the environment when we can all learn from each other. Carol, I want to pivot to you. You've had such an interesting career journey well before you got involved with us here at Link. You've been in healthcare, you've been in risk management, you've been in operations. That's just the professional side of things. You've lived on each coast, you've worked in academic settings, you preach and lecture at the National Cathedral. You sing. There's so many dimensions to Carol. Every time I learn more about you, it's like an onion with another layer. Talk to me a little bit about your journey and how that led to you wanting to do the work you do now.
Well, it would be amazing if I actually did speak at the National Cathedral. I serve there, but they haven't let me go to the podium just yet.
Maybe after this recording. After this recording,
I was raised in a family where learning, education, curiosity, creativity were all fostered. My mother was an amazing seamstress. My dad was a musician. I'm actually a fourth generation church musician. But I've always been, from my very first career, I've always been an educator. I believe so strongly that knowledge drives out fear. And a lot of what we do at Link is educating people, helping people see beyond themselves and looking with a wide lens at the community and what we can all do together. And it is true, I've actually started over at entry-level positions 4 times, in insurance, in education, and at Link. If you remember, I came as an associate more than 3 years ago. But I think that my trajectory has always been towards learning more, sharing more. I'm absolutely with Charlie. I can count on the fingers of one hand the days I don't feel like coming to work. And that has been true everywhere. And it's especially true at Link, where we care so deeply about what we do and about each other. And that just has a ripple effect that goes, beyond the continental United States. You know that. So it's a great journey. My waistline keeps me from doing too many trips to U Street because Ben's coffee milkshake is irresistible, and I have to watch that. And of course, there's nobody like Zamia for doing an activation with, and that's so true of all of our folks. So it's an incredible time, and it's far from over.
I love that. And Nizam, I'm gonna come to you now to wrap up this portion about your journey, because we've talked about the role you've played literally growing up in the industry, now in a leadership role with it. You've also played a large role in the Ben Chili Bowl Foundation, which I know is the charitable arm, the formal charitable arm. There's lots of charitable parts of what you all do at Ben's. Could you talk a little bit about your journey and that professional journey that kind of tied together the professional, the community, and the family aspects of what you do?
So the journey's been interesting because everything I learned was from mom and dad. So they're the ones that taught us to have that love for people, how to interact with people, and the whole notion of service. So starting out, I grew up working in the restaurant as my 2 brothers did, and had an opportunity to go off to undergrad and come back and worked a full year here after graduating. And I was like, this business is way too difficult. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing this for the rest of my life. And I ended up going to law school, which in actuality was easier than working at Ben's Chili Bowl or working in a restaurant. So graduated there, and then we were doing our 40th anniversary, and we were trying to do a tribute to mom and dad. And it had humble beginnings, but it turned out to be much larger than we thought it would be. And I've been here every day since and have never looked back. And I think that the notion of service that mom and dad instilled in me and my brothers really permeated into the restaurant. We try to serve every day, whether it's serving food or serving the community, and they're one and the same in some other respects. So that's what led me here, and I get to work with my mother every day. and my brothers and sister-in-laws every day, and this wonderful staff. And I get to meet people, like Mom said, from across the country and around the world. And it's been extremely rewarding. And we have turned that into our work with the foundation just to formalize our giving and our service. But we get to partner up with so many people, and Link and you and your team. And it just makes every day so special. As Charlie said, you love going to work every day.
I love that. I love that, Nizam. I'm going to come right back to you in a second because I want to stay on this thread, but to kind of introduce this next part of the discussion, as we talked about at the beginning, it's what is it, Zamia? Intergenerational Day? Intergenerational Day. Everything has a day. This one is Intergenerational Day. It's official. And so I love that. And so we talk about it as a multi-generational workforce. And, at Link, our youngest employee is 16. We have a really strong high school-based internship model. Our oldest employee, and I got permission to share this by Charlie, is 95 years young. And those aren't outliers, right? We have every generation really intentionally represented at Link. And age diversity is a piece of the overall picture here. Over 65% of our team identify as women, over 70% of people of color. In our Washington, D.C. office, we actively recruit and hire from all 8 wards. We have offices in 5 U.S. cities and 1 in Manchester, England. So we've tried very hard to be representative of the communities of which we're in and of. Not because it's a good thing to do, it is. Not because all business should do it, they should. But also because it just makes us a better business and a better company and a better culture if we embrace that spirit of belonging, of which multi-generational has been a key part of it. It has been a huge part from kind of day one of all learning from each other. As Zamia and I were preparing for today, she had this really interesting perspective on like maybe a younger generation's a little bit more adept at the latest technology, but the older generation has seen every technology come and go, and they're going to have a perspective on staying power, et cetera, right? So we're all going to learn from each other as we're doing this together. So pivoting back to you, Nizam, can you talk a little bit about how that shows up at Ben's? I know we've talked a lot about your mom, but it's certainly not an outlier. You use more experienced folks in a lot of different roles there, from tours, et cetera. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one thing is, again, just the wealth of knowledge that Mom and our other elders have here at Ben's. I mean, this is a historical place, a historical landmark, so to speak. I was born in 1970. So like. I can talk about the riots. Mom has experienced the riots. Our other elders have experienced that and really know firsthand what it is. And I can talk and teach and, have a great time with some of our groups here that we get from all around the country and around the world. And when Mom comes in or Mom speaks to them, it's a whole nother ballgame. Just the respect that's given, just the tone, the wisdom, everything about it just makes it that much more special. So we do get lots of groups, and what we found is that any of our staff could do the introduction, explain the menu, talk a little bit about the history, play videos that we have. But when we have a senior person or an elder do that, it carries so much more weight and authenticity, because it's not myself reciting from a book or reciting a story that Mom told me. It's the person that lived it reciting that story and that memory of them and their experience of being Washington, of Black Washington, of Black Broadway, of the struggles that we went through during the subway construction, or when the drug wars and the murders in Washington, and everything in between. But it's so beneficial in that wealth of knowledge. Like Charlie said, Mom's been through it before and been through so much before. So nothing is new. Whereas I may have this great idea and Mom will be like, you can try it, but we have tried that before and this is how it went. So that institutional knowledge and wisdom that really guides us in everything that we do. And it's invaluable to have her and our other senior staff here with us every single day. I learn from them.
So Virginia, I want to pick up where I dropped off. I was asking about what you think the benefit of having a multi-generational workforce is. And you were talking about how we all need each other. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm saying that we need each other. And having that multi-generation of people makes that possible. We need to spend time together. We seniors need to pass our experiences on to them. and they can pass their skills on to us. They're far more high tech knowledgeable than we are, but we also have something to offer them. Our advice, our wisdom, and what we've experienced in terms of relationships or work ethics or raising children, the whole 9 yards. It's really important, and I think that it has been successful for us. And the number of young people that we've been able to relate to and to encourage and to help. And they, on the other hand, has given us energy and enthusiasm to help us continue to be strong as well.
And if I chime in, when I hear mom talking to one of our staff about, why aren't you smiling today? I hear that a lot. Or I hear, you have to drink some water. You know your body needs water. And they're just some very basic things that some people need to be reminded of,
Yeah.
for their own benefit and their own health and their own well-being. And mom, and everyone calls mom because she's the mom to all. And just that counseling and that wisdom and just some common sense things about life. Seniors, elders, mom has that, and really tries to give that to others that are here every single day.
I love that. There's so much about just leading by example, right? I talk about this a lot. Like, it's really hard to log on and be like, I don't feel like being at work today, and then look at the screen or look across the conference room table at someone who truly does not need to be there and is choosing to be there and has so much to offer. It keeps everything in perspective. We have a retreat coming up, which Charlie has rebranded. It's going to be the Recharge, because retreat is backward looking and the recharge is forward looking. So we're going to do the link recharge. But the last retreat we did, we had this whole presentation on digital advertising. In the retreat before that, we had a presentation on artificial intelligence. And after 2 days of retreating, we'd ask everyone, what'd you take away? And Charlie said, well, I took away artificial intelligence is something I need to learn more about. And digital advertising is the future. And I'm like, you're sitting here capturing all this, feeding it back to us in a way that many people in the room didn't process. It shows the value of that continual learning organization. Carol, I want to bring you in here. You said something really interesting a minute ago. You said, I've started over professionally 4 different times, right? So you haven't just been in a lot of different organizations and industries, but you've been at a lot of different levels of an organization. I'm wondering what you see as the benefit of a multi-generational workforce and really investing in that.
I think the Virginia talked, I think, very well about what we can learn from each other and what we have to share. But it day in and day out, it can be a very deep thing of bringing the knowledge and in my case, it had to do really with learning healthcare policy at a time long before the situation we have now. So the principles, the policies, the decisions made then are impacting our lives today. And I have that perspective. I worked in the facility that did the beta test for prospective payment, which is what drives reimbursement today. So I saw that developed by engineers impact the lives of individuals and their families. And I bring that, and I think it was Jamal who said she's a walking history book because of the span of time. So what I can share and what I can learn and how it makes the product, the project, the interaction richer, better, more effective. To me, it's a dynamic that I have always valued, and of course now at Link, it is such a dynamic environment, and we learn from each other, we share. It's an extraordinary thing, and I would hate to be in a place where that opportunity was not available.
I love the framing of that, and I think, to businesses who might be watching, because we get a good viewership of other businesses and CEOs and entrepreneurs who are looking to figure out how to do this well. I think my one piece of advice is there's no specific path. You got to find the one that works for everybody involved, right? So when Charlie joined us, he was at another firm after selling his firm, and they didn't quite know how best to utilize Charlie's skill set. And so Charlie and I had a really good dialogue about what would it look like if I came to Link. What would the day-to-day look like? What would I be expected to do? Could I coach? Could I mentor? I was very early in developing a firm and said, I don't know, but we're going to figure this out together. And the fact that we had that dialogue and entered with the same expectations allowed that relationship to professionally work. Carol, you mentioned before you joined as an associate. The associate is our version of a paid professional internship program. And we've been very intentional about that paid professional program being open to people at every level of life experience, right? So we've had high school students, college students, postdocs, folks retired or later in life or looking for career changes all come into that program. And I think there's a certain elegance around that, right? Because you get to try us out first and figure out if this is a place you want to invest time. Carol started in the associate program. Carol, it turns out, is a phenomenal writer, and we needed more writing. So we asked Carol if she'd consider more hours and a larger position to help us with writing. And then we needed all of the grace and talent that Carol brings and asked her if she'd consider a full-time role leading operations. I get a text from Carol every morning at 4 a.m. There's no exaggeration in that. That's when she starts her day. And I wake up to a text from Carol outlining the day, and usually something she read in the New York Times that she thinks I need to know for the day. That's how my day starts. And then when I end my day at 2 a.m., Carol and I joke that there's still a 2-hour window in there we haven't figured out how to fill. But Carol, is that a fair reflection? Like, there wasn't a pre-subscribed notion of what this was going to look like. We decided we'd try it, and then we grew it into something that's working really well for both of us. Is that a fair way to say that?
Oh, I think it's absolutely fair. And as I got to know Link, I found more and more things that both interested me and challenged me. And my friends from my previous job, where I had really enormous responsibilities as well, say that I sound entirely different because of what I've learned and what I do. I was a policy wonk before, but I'm now a policy wonk in a whole different area of local and district government. So it's the way forward has been a zigzag, and at each zig and each zag, I've picked up something new until now. I work so much with you and with the leadership, as well as being functional support for any project that will have me.
I love that. Charlie, I'm going to ask you one more question, then I'm turning it over to Zamia to do our last piece here. So Charlie, we've talked a lot about your career and your professional world. What do you think some of the values of working in a multi-generational environment are? If you had to kind of make the business case to someone who might be skeptical, what should we tell them?
First of all, I would be one of the skeptical people. And I tell you, when it first started, when I was out and about looking for work, I didn't even know what public relations was, but it sounded nice. So I said, I went to the library and I did all my research. But most of all, I started knocking on doors. Hi, my name is, and I'm willing to give you all my time, all my attention, everything for free. I just want to learn the business. And I found out that there's a lot of people out there that never heard of that before. And this was years ago. And maybe it was the beginning of something. And sure enough, I ended up hiring a number of people under those conditions. And it came back not to haunt me, but to pat me on the back. So I was really happy about.
Yeah. Charlie, that makes sense. And every year when we've been able to celebrate your birthdays, in the last couple of years that we've done these big Zoom birthday parties, it's always touching to see how many people come to those gatherings and say, I got my first job from Charlie Brotman. I got my first experience from Charlie. I got my first break here. There are whole families who can count their professional realm back to that first job they got from Charlie. And so you were investing in multi-generational workforces before any of us talked about them that way. Is that right?
And then, of course, you're absolutely right. And then, of course, to kind of find that needle that they're jabbing me with, it says, yes, I worked for Charlie. He gave me my first opportunity, but he never paid me anything.
To be clear, we pay everyone at Link
We
Strategic
do.
Partners.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. One of the things I found out, there's the name Fred Sternberg.
Mm-hmm.
He was in real estate and he really disliked it. And he mentioned it to one of the columnists at the Washington Post, who called me and said, Fred Sternberg wants to be just like you, Charlie. He wants to be in public relations and he wants to do all the kind of stuff you do. Would you give him a break? So I said, sure. And I called him and told him, come on up. And what I'm finding out is he is working harder than anybody I'm paying. And to please me, nobody else but me. I said, Fred, come in here. We got to talk. You're working so hard and doing such a good job for zero on the job learning that I'd like to start paying you like a real employee. And it's been that way ever since.
Yep.
It works really wonderful.
No, it's an important thing. And on that note, I'm going to bring Zamia back in to walk us through our final piece here. Zamia, back to you.
Thanks, Michael. And this conversation has honestly been so heartwarming. There's a quote that I remember from Coretta Scott King that says, the greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actors of its members. And I feel like each one of you are so compassionate in so many ways, and just hearing your stories and your journeys really unpack that. But each of you have also impacted individuals, companies, and communities throughout your lifetime. You've experienced so much, you've conquered the impossible, and you've learned many valuable lessons that we cannot unpack all here today. But as we wrap today, I want to end with a lesson or a call to action or any closing remarks that you would like to leave us with. I'll start with you, Carol.
Oh, thanks, Amia. Well, I really have two. The first is to read. Read everything. Read all the time. Whether it's beach reads or treatises, newspapers, magazines, read. And you will find your voice when you read the voices of other people. And the other thing I would say is become an extraordinary listener. Listen for what is said as well as for what is unsaid. And those two things, filling your mind with the ideas of other people and then listening to the environment in a truly focused way, will stand you in very good stead, no matter what profession you go into.
Thank you so much for that, Carol. Nizam, I'm going to toss to you next. What lesson or call to action or closing remarks would you like to leave us with today?
I would say just be a lifelong learner. I mean, I think the worst quality in people, in some people, there's some people in the world that just think they know it all. And I think that's absolutely the worst thing ever. Always be open to suggestion. Always be open to constructive criticism. Always be willing to learn a new way. If one of the staff here can teach me how to wrap a chili dog better, I would love to learn that. There's so many ways that you can learn from others, but you have to be open to it.
For sure. Thank you. I think one thing that I learned when I was graduating high school, one of my old mentors told me, be a coach, but also be coachable all the time. And that's something that I take with me all the time. So thank you, Nizam. Charlie, I'm going to toss to you next. What lesson or call to action or closing remarks would you like to leave with everyone today?
Nothing's impossible. I am one ordinary guy. And here I am at the White House with the president. I have a conversation with President Obama. And I said, Mr. President, I was a little disappointed in your parade. And he says, why, Charlie? I was the announcer for the parade. And I said, you're talking about African Americans, and you're talking about the first African American president. I mean, this is big stuff. And I would have thought there's so much talent with regards to the African Americans, singers, dancers, and a million other things. And they're all famous and all great, but you didn't have anybody in your parade. He says, well, I tell you what, you're absolutely right. But did you happen to see a group of young African Americans in the parade? And I said, I certainly did. He said, well, I could have had those famous people. And I thought, those famous people will get asked to do things a million times. But these youngsters, these teenagers, will never be asked to be in a parade and meet all these important, famous people. And I said, Mr. President, patted him on the back, said, you're absolutely right. Absolutely, you are a winner. I'm glad that you're the president and making all these necessary decisions.
Thank you for that,
I
Charlie.
mean, you got to really know who you are and who you're with. Don't be anything that.
Thank you for that. Charlie, I remember Michael talked about the picture from when I first started at Link when I was a senior. That was in 2019 when we were working together. And I remember I asked you, I said, Charlie, I'm starting here at Link. It's my first week. Like, what is your advice for me? And you're like, nothing is impossible. You told me the same thing 4 years ago. So thank you so much that you stand on that, Charlie. I truly believe it. Virginia, I'm going to close out with you. What lesson or calls to action or closing remarks would you like to leave us with today?
Well, I think we first of all need to, it's all about learning, a lifetime of learning, but more importantly, to know who you are, to spend time knowing who you are, to set your goals, to realize that you can be anything you make up your mind to be. Just put your efforts into it, keep an open mind, and be optimistic and treat people with kindness. And you can be anything you make up your mind to be, and you can do it. Never give up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Never give up.
Zemiah, you see what's happening? You're in charge of all these famous people you're talking to. You're in charge. You're telling them what to do, what not to do, when to do it, when not to do it. My lady, you have arrived.
Thank you so much, Charlie. I'm going to toss to Michael to close us out here, but I just want to thank all the panelists for coming today. I've learned so much and I've been truly inspired and motivated by each of you. So thank you for joining us. Michael?
It has been a great hour that went by really quickly. Please share this on any platforms for others that you think would enjoy this discussion. And please give us your own feedback. All of the comments are open. So how are you embracing multi-generational workplaces? What more can people be doing to really embrace this? We unfortunately need to end this now because I need to make sure to get ready to take the call where Charlie will tell me how this could have gone better. Because I need to be coached as well. And I know he will give me lots of feedback on today's production. Virginia, thank you. Nizam, thank you. Carol, Charlie, Zemiah. It was a great discussion, and we appreciate everyone joining us.